As we go live with this episode of Only Weird Games, it is 4:45 p.m. here in beautiful Kansas City, which means that an hour and 45 minutes ago was the NFL's deadline for teams to submit their initial 53-man rosters.
Big news.
So you'd really think that we would be able to talk about it right now. You would be wrong, but you would think.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
No exaggeration necessary. And hey, look, I'm not complaining that we don't have enough to talk about. We certainly do. Juju Smith-Schuster is back. 2 trades have happened. A couple of names have been reportedly cut, waived, released. But we don't know the 53-man roster. I, with that in mind, have had a pretty tumultuous day. But I'm not Nate Taylor. Hey, Nate, hell is going on?
All right, guys, let's you ready to do some math? Are we ready to do some math? Okay. All right, let's do it. At the quarterback position, we're just gonna go right down, guys. 53 until we get it.
Gosh.
53 until we get it right. Patrick Mahomes, Carson Wentz. Got
Confident. Done.
2 running backs. Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Check. Carson Steele, fullback. Got it. Oh. 7 receivers. Sky Moore. Congratulations. You've won the 7th and final roster spot with Juju Smith-Schuster as 5, Michael Hartman as 6, and we've already talked about the 4 for 2 months now. They have 4 tight ends. I cannot tell you how demoralizing it must be to go through an Andy Reid training camp, 3 straight preseason games, and for Irv Smith to find out that he didn't make the roster because they gave up a conditional 2026 7th round pick to replace you. What in the mother hell is going on? Did CJ Hansen make the roster? We'll find out when it comes out, kids, because I don't know if they have 9 offensive linemen or 10 offensive linemen. It's probably 9. It might be 10 if you want to keep the rookies. Now, Cam Thomas makes this interesting because does that mean you're keeping Derek Nottie or Malik Herring? Who knows, kids? It might be.
It's bad news for Truman Jones. I mean, we got to say what we gotta say. It's bad news for
Neil Farrell tweeted that God has a plan or something like that. That's generally
Seth, from a theological perspective, did he make the team or not?
Not.
You know that, generally speaking, from a pastoral perspective, I rarely hear people say that when good things happen. Like, when was the last time, like, someone like, I got this promotion. You know what? God's got a plan in this. Like, people are usually, which, there's something on this that'll
unpack that later.
Yeah, there's something that'll preach on that. Like, in the moment when things are going good, everyone's like, yay, look what my hands hath wrought, and that kind of thing. But, like, usually when someone's like, you know what, there's a plan here. It's generally, when someone starts off that way to me, I'm like, oh, so you've had it rough, huh?
Listen, God has a plan, but I have no reason to believe that Brett Veach has one at defensive tackle, because that's how it always ends.
No, it begins and ends with Derek Nottie. Because
Brett Veach took the job in with Chris Jones and then just continued to replace the guy next to Chris Jones with decreasing versions of Derek Nottie.
In the beginning was the Derek Nottie, and the Derek Nottie was with Derek Nottie, and the Derek Nottie was Derek Nottie. That is the plan at Noah's Tackle, always and forever and ever.
But they brought back Mike Pennell, right? I mean, he's on the roster, right? Right? We don't know.
And then they're playing him in preseason games. They're playing him. It's like you've got a guy that you've done this with Mike Pennell. And like, look, I think the roster is better this year than it was last year. I don't even know if it's that close, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
You had the opposite take like a month ago.
Yeah.
The offense. Yeah, the offense is way better.
Okay, I can't remember.
Okay.
Well,
Fine.
and I learned new information. Worthy
I get
looks
it.
better than I expected.
You saw Felix in the preseason, and you're like, we're fine here.
Yeah. And so I just really don't understand, because this is a minor thing. So you got a guy that if you bring him in and limit his snaps or have him not have any snaps, and then you just unleash him in December, January, February, in Mike Pennell, he plays well. But now it's like, you know what we're going to do? Let's give him some preseason snaps.
Hey, Seth, I hate to cut you off mid-ramp up here, but we don't know if Mike Pennell's on the damn roster or not because it's not submitted yet. They really might. I don't think so. But there is an honest chance, as we are live here now, an hour and 50 minutes after this was due. There's a real chance they went, hey, Mike, we're just gonna cut you today. We'll make the checks make sense. We're gonna stash you over here. Don't go anywhere for about 12 weeks, and we're gonna holler at you. We're gonna get you some game checks. All right, Mike? Sounds good. There's a chance they did that. We'd have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey. Remember when Kelvin Joseph was cornerback 2?
Yeah.
He's not on the roster.
Yeah.
And
you don't know the vibes.
And that is one thing that's at least interesting. There's been some feel-good stories this year, though, already of the guys we know made it. I don't know if anyone's talked about this yet. There's a Carson Steele. I don't know if any Chiefs fans have talked about him at all.
Right.
That looks like he's made the roster. That's a feel-good story. There's a cornerback whose name, for the love of God, I can't remember, which I would say says something about me.
I can do it for you. Go ahead.
Please do.
I got a lot of tabs open. I got.
Are we talking about Christian Roland Wallace? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah, there it
Yes.
is. It's another one of the continuing.
Thank you, Seth, for your next absolutely unimpeachable addition to the show.
Hey, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, look, I know this is at the top of the list on what you want to know as we start this show. Again, not having the official 53-man roster, without having any idea if Nico Remigio is going to make the practice squad or not. Look, I know this happened earlier today. Championship Swagger asks, "Are you doing okay, buddy?" Anita, who I know very well, says, "Hey, man, how you doing?" Cal Coffee says, "I hope you got your departing hug." I didn't get my hug because I was talking to Matt Eberflus in the opposing locker room after the preseason finale. They told LRZ, "Hey, man, hey, Lewis, what hurts? You got a back? You got a back. You got a back." And then they said, "Actually, you're fine, man. We'll just see you here on Tuesday. Next Tuesday when you clear waivers and yada yada." But no, I didn't get to hug Louis Rees-Zammit. I hope I get to hug him next Tuesday after the final practice before they play the Baltimore Ravens. But Louis Rees-Zammit didn't make the team. We know that.
Brilliant. The Ravens can't prepare for a game if they don't know who's on the roster.
Hey, you think the league was like, are you mother bleepers kidding me that you made a trade with the Dallas Cowboys at the 11th hour for a tight end I never heard of for a conditional 2026 draft pick? Are you serious?
A conditional seventh.
A conditional seventh?
A conditional seventh round pick is my favorite, especially for next draft. It can, because teams can trade as far as 4 years into the future, or 3?
I think it's 3 years out.
Okay.
The league would say, please, can you let's not do 2030 yet. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. Let's not do it, guys.
And hey, you know what? He's got some starting experience. So I apologize. I know we're mostly just talking about what they haven't done. They have done some stuff.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk about some of it actually, because there are a few things that have been established. That is what I would suggest we spend the next little bit talking about. And I promise when we get news, I will break in with the 53. I'll read it from 1 to 53.
Hey Josh, you think I can watch Carlos Alcaraz tonight uninhibited by the dreaded doom of who's on the 53 and who's not? Carlos Alcaraz is set to be on court, ladies and gentlemen, in 2 hours.
Who?
Oh my God. I think he's an MMA fighter.
Yep.
So the wide receiver room does appear to be relatively set at this point. We'll get to some of the trades and everything in a little bit, but Kadarius Toney is out. Justin Ross is out, which would have been surprising on Thursday without the condition of who is back.
Hold on. Would it been surprising? Because someone put this man's business out in front of everybody, and I know who that man is. I'm talking to him.
Sometimes tweets take on a life of their own that you didn't intend on them to take.
Oh, come on. It definitely popped off the way you wanted it to.
I did not think that was going to be what popped up. I have other things I would rather use my pop-off power towards. But yeah, we
put
did
this
talk
man's
about
business out on the street where McCole Hartman says, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing, man?
And then Andy Reid, in disgust, said, "Let me
angriest
burn a timeout in the third preseason game for this man."
Beginning of the second quarter.
You can't go ahead.
We did talk about on Tuesday or on Friday, sorry, after the Thursday preseason game. We did talk about this play in question. I did end up tweeting out the clip because BJ tweeted something and I was like, I know what he's talking about. I can access that clip pretty easy. And I was expecting 7 receivers, and it felt like Ross had the best argument out of kind of the 3 guys really in that competition, Remigio, Toney, and himself. Well, they're all out. I'll tell you, I'd be just gosh darn gobsmacked if Kadarius Toney ended up on the Chiefs practice squad. But I do think that it would make perfect sense for Ross to be there if another team doesn't want to bring him along. I expect Remigio to be there, but Juju Smith-Schuster is back. We talked about him a little bit.
Juju!
When the Patriots, I love that it's just like Seth is really, when he feels bad about interrupting with entire tangents, he just starts making noises to try to distract me from this show that we all theoretically do from the same team. But yeah, I said theoretically.
Hold on. Hey, Tucker.
We got it.
Tucker.
We got it.
Tucker, is that true? Is that the real conditions of this beloved Hendershot trade?
Oh, he said this is okay. So Tucker has sent conditions.
Oh
of
my
the
God!
Trade. The Cowboys receive a 7th round pick in 2026 if Hendershot is on the 53-man roster for 5 games this season, or he's on the 46-man game day roster for 3 games this season. So basically, he's got to be active 3 times or on the 53 5 times for them to get that pick, which the fact that might not happen means that he could show up and have a bad practice and they could just call Irv back tomorrow, I guess. That's kind of wild. From Nick Harris from Cowboys.com. I tend to trust the URL. So thank you, Tucker. That's, it's not a big trade.
How do we have the I mean, I know why, and I'll explain the sausage here in a minute. How do we have the conditions for this trade, which I believe the league has, and yet we have no idea who's on the 53-man roster for your Kansas City Chiefs?
That's a great question, Nate.
How? Now, it doesn't help that they did make this trade pretty late in the deadline process. I wonder if there's some physical issues, like can you clear your physical? Like, how can they expedite that between now and cut down day, and who's going to be on the practice squad and who's not? Is Cam Thomas in the air? He might be. Who knows? But yeah. I'm sure they're going to send out a release later today, maybe tomorrow morning.
The privileges that
they milk it until tomorrow.
They technically could milk it to tomorrow because even this is hilarious. Even though Cowboy.com has the details, has the trade been officially agreed upon and certified by the league? That has yet to happen. Therefore, if he is projected to be on your 53-man roster, you can't really put out your 53-man roster until you know that he's on the 50-man roster. Same with Cam Thomas with Arizona. So we wait.
You know what? Juju's back.
Okay, good.
That's at
good
least
to know.
a thing that has happened. The Chiefs have confirmed it. He spoke to the media today. And hey, look, just as instantaneously, Seth, you had another little story about a man that you may have thought you were done writing about over in the Chief in the North newsletter. What did you want to find out by revisiting Juju film, and where do you see him fitting in right now? I am excited about this. I think this is deeply logical in a way that so few layup NFL moves ever seem to be when they actually have.
Hey, did you realize that Roger Goodell put someone on the commissioner's list, yet Still no word on Rashee Rice. I mean, I guess he's playing.
Yeah, you would think.
Well, if there's one thing for darn sure, we know that the NFL won't just, do something weird with that.
We can trust that they will be both consistent and timely.
Hey guys, what if we make a trade at 3:45, and therefore we don't have to put out the roster until tomorrow? What if we do that? Yeah, call Jerry. Call Jerry back. I know Jerry's on the phone with Dak, but call him back. What's his name again? Henderson? Not Henderson. Hendershot?
Yeah, what kind of name is Hendershot?
Okay.
Actually, that is objectively better than
All
Henderson.
right. Well, let's just call him. Let's just call him and make a deal. Because Cam Thomas, I mean, he's been in 2-point stances. We got to teach him how to get in a 4 to 3-point stance. And yeah, let's just get this roster done tomorrow. I mean, if you make a trade now, we don't have to do it until tomorrow. I mean, mechanisms, roster construction.
So I actually understand the moves that they've made. They all make sense.
For sure. Yeah.
That is kind of, so Josh, you mentioned layups. Now, one thing that's interesting to me was choosing to sign Juju Smith-Schuster before some of the guys that have been released. The Texans cut a guy who's got a big-bodied receiver who can ideally line up on the boundary.
So someone the Chiefs were not interested in. Tim Patrick, though.
Unless his name is Justin Watson and he is white as the driven snow, they have no interest in boundary receivers. So with Juju Smith-Schuster, I can understand why people are hesitant on it. If you'll recall,
I can't.
I
do not understand being hesitant. I'm not making a joke. I will wait my turn, but I don't understand being hesitant.
When Juju was a free agent following the 2022 season, I did a film review of 2022, which was by far his most successful year in years, both in terms of health and production. And what I wrote was basically, I wouldn't pay to keep him around because I knew he was going to get something like what he got from New England, $8-9 million a year. It was $13 million guaranteed, something like that. And I just said, it's not quite worth that. The biggest problem with him, when you go back and rewatch 2022, and we talked about this at the time, it was so clear there were multiple games where, he played, and he played plenty of snaps, but you could tell he was injured. Tough guy, plays through it a lot. So when he misses it, it's bad. But there were so many games, so many times when he had to leave in the middle of a drive, was nicked up a little bit, and then he would come back in. It happened a lot. And I just said, that's just not worth quite that. If you had health guarantees, what he did was worth it. And we saw last year when everyone's like, wow, what was he doing that was so valuable? He was running to the place Patrick Mahomes expected him to be and then catching the ball when it got there. Sometimes it really is that simple. It's a simple level of competency. And here's what I would say. I went and I watched about 100 snaps of Juju Smith-Schuster's with New England, which was limited because he struggled with, ding, 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 injuries. Again, it's really unfortunate for him, but that's just been the story of his career. He's not explosive anymore, but he wasn't explosive when he was with the Chiefs either. So that's not something to really expect. Here's the thing that I noticed is the same stuff on film with Kansas City. He runs to the right spot against zone. He drifts to the right area. He knows when to convert from his initial route to turning it into a schoolyard thing. He makes tough catches. Got good hands. All that stuff.
Hey Seth, Hey Seth. Even though he just saw the playbook again for the first time in over a year, will he line up in the right spot?
He will line up in the right spot.
Okay,
I would bet he just practiced for the first time today, right?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. I would be willing to put a little bit of money that he would have a better shot at lining up correctly than Justin Ross after 2 practices. Or at least after being told that he's doing something wrong, getting it right. Juju's a smart player, always has been. So here's the thing with him. How do you keep him healthy or remotely healthy? Well, you can play him 15, 20 snaps a game. Well, Seth, that's not worth big money. Exactly. You know what it is worth? The veteran minimum. And that's why, Josh, like you said, it's a layup. This is a no-brainer in terms of a guy who will come in, and I know people have issues with like the TikTok stuff and that kind of thing. What I don't care about any of that. We know he came in, everyone loved him in the building, was a good teammate, didn't complain when the ball didn't go his way, did everything he could when the ball did go his way.
His head coaches have been Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid, and Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I don't think the TikTok is a problem, folks.
Yeah. So, yeah. Apparently those guys don't care. So but he's a guy that everyone in the building knows. He knows the offense overall. He's also a pro that you can trust to go to the right spot, that you can trust to haul in tough catches. He was Mahomes' go-to guy in 2022 on third down besides Travis Kelce. Now, again, don't expect 2022 Juju Smith-Schuster. Just don't. If that dude shows up, even that dude might not get.
He told us today not to expect that guy, and like almost verbatim.
Yeah, but that's just the thing. The Chiefs are in a situation, they're not looking for a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3. They're barely looking for a wide receiver 4 because him and Justin Watson are such different players that it just kind of depends on the snap. They're looking for a guy who could come in and play 15, 20 snaps a game, if that, maybe a little more for She Rice gets hurt. Or gets hurt or gets suspended. You know what? That's easy. Veteran minimum, sign me up. Now, do I wish maybe they'd waited until seeing some of the guys that have become available with these final cuts? Maybe. But in terms of knowing a guy that you know, because you're guessing how that guy will acclimate. You know how he'll acclimate.
Well, Seth, the sooner we can get him in, the sooner he can get these practices in. And guess what? The Baltimore Ravens are coming next week. So if we want 15 to 20 snaps out of him with the belief and I guess the assumption that Hollywood Brown's not going to be available for said game, then yeah, why don't we agree to this on Sunday? You'll fly in Monday morning and you'll breathe on the practice field in a few hours after.
Yeah. And really, I haven't seen anyone that, there are people that are maybe a little less injury concerned or maybe a little more upside. I don't know. But really, the big thing with Juju is, can he be even 85% of the dude he was in 2022? If so, okay. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Give us 1 third down catch. There's just so much less being asked of him here. Block hard. Like these things, it's an easy decision in my opinion. And it's also demonstrative of where the wide receiver room is now, how much less he's probably going to be asked to do.
2 things that I would add. 1 is that if he gets hurt in week 2, who cares? Not about him as a human being or his knees or whatever, but if he's out there and he helps you against the Ravens, or if he helps you in week 7, 8, and 9 for some reason, and if that's all he brings, literally what did it cost you? It cost you putting Justin Ross on waivers, which you may have been doing anyway.
Right.
It cost you Irv Smith, which again was happening anyway, probably, considering that they ended up making the move there. But this is a better version of what people tried to say the McCole Hardman trade was ultimately. Like, oh, it's barely anything, and they can elevate the room. It's literally the last cell on your Excel spreadsheet. This is vet minimum. The Patriots are paying him way more money than the Chiefs. It's literally as little as you can pay him off the street as wide receiver 7 and really functionally higher than that. And maybe this is partially me just being frustrated with the way that some people reacted to the idea that this reunion would make sense when he got cut by New England. If you just watched last season, how on earth could you look at this group and be like, no, they have enough professional wide receivers. It'll be fine no matter what. When that's a free space that you're welcome to pick up there. I just think it's such a no-brainer. It seems so easy to me. And you now have some contingency plans, some redundancies across the rest of the wide receiver depth chart. And I have breaking news for you, fellas. 2 hours and 7 minutes after the deadline came and went, Sam McDowell tweeted that Matt Dickerson did not make the 53-man roster.
Are you kidding me?
McDowell says he's certainly a candidate for the practice squad.
Certainly. Oh, we're still doing this?
We're still doing it, baby. We're still doing it.
I thought for a minute I was like, what is he talking about? I haven't seen anything. No, it's just
Matt Dickerson news. Seth, your thoughts? Don't respond to that.
I mean, to be fair, Matt Dickerson is really a fringe NFL player. He's better than you think. He's also worse than you think. So thank you, Seth, for just exquisite Yeah, just an exquisite expression about Matt Dickerson, who played legitimate snaps last season and had good moments, had bad moments. He is your average NFL player. So I did not put him on my 53-man roster because, yes, he is, as Sam McDowell reports here, certainly a candidate to make the practice squad. So does that ensure that Derek Notty's on the roster? Again, shoulder shrugs, but we are there is information trickling out. It's almost like if I was Steve Kornacki picking at certain counties and say, now look, votes are still coming in, ladies and gentlemen.
We've still got 2 roster spots here on the defensive line. You could see 3 in the defensive backfield, but probably not both here.
Now, if Cam Jones doesn't make the roster, that changes the math, and we don't know if that means 6 cornerbacks or 5 safeties, or if Matt Dickerson is a certain candidate. Now we're going to move him from one side to the practice squad side. Now, look, ladies and gentlemen, he's a veteran. Okay. So therefore you can only have so many veterans on the practice squad who don't have to clear waivers. Now, does that mean that you can have Matt Dickerson and Derek Notty at the practice squad? Most people will tell you, most analysts will tell you, those precincts cannot work in concert with one another. So we're just going to move Derek Notty into the 53-man roster based on the contract, based on his production. Matt Dickerson is going to be over here with not Irv Smith Jr. We've just sent him to the moon for some reason.
He is in the shadow realm.
He's in the shadow realm. And so does that mean Deneric Prince is on the practice squad? Louis Rezaman on the practice squad? Nico Remigio, Justin Ross? Can I see you, Swayze Bozeman? Hey, Swayze Bozeman, look at him. He's now in the practice squad. I don't know why I'm touching this photo of me graduating from college back in, oh my God, 2010. That was a long time ago. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll come back as soon as we get more votes in. You know, this is just the early registration, the early ballots, mail-in ballots. We'll get back to you once we have the full documentation. That won't definitely be disputed or tried to be, what's the word? I'm looking for?
Toney is asking for a recount, actually. Right?
Oh, come on! There's not gonna be
Kadarius Toney's excited.
Be a revolt.
He tweeted out the "Here we go" Joker gif, which I don't think people. That's like I'm trying to think of.
Is he trying to rile up a riot?
Well, here's what I don't understand.
The insurrection should have been at Chiefs media today. You guys should have gotten in and knocked on Brad G's desk and said, I need to see the 53 today, sir.
If you want to know why Kadarius Toney didn't make the roster, it's because he's the type of guy that after getting cut by a team that gave him about 600 different chances to make it, and a team that with a head coach that's incredibly well known for making difficult situations work out.
Excuse me, Mr. Keysor. We have some new reports coming to you live from Dr. Ozzy via the chat, courtesy of Nazy Johnson's agent, courtesy of that agent's Instagram page, courtesy's telling us that Nazy Johnson has made the 53. Again, cannot confirm it. Haven't seen it with my own eyes. I did put it on my roster projection, so I'm pretty sure Dr. Ozzy is correct, quoting Nazy Johnson's agent, quoting Nazy Johnson via the Instagram. Go back to you live, Seth. Finish your point on Kadarius Toney.
I have no idea what I was
saying. Okay, well, we may have the roster in a second. So let me tell you something here, and then we will begin to sort through the rest.
Oh, no, Lucas Niang didn't make the roster?
Looking that way, but you know what did make the cut? The KCSN pre-golf tournament benefit raffle. What you're seeing right now is just 2 of the prizes you can get. If you want to sign up, support the KCSN Foundation. All of these details are at KCSN Foundation on Twitter. You can see everything that's available there. These are 2 of the 8 prizes that we will have. But these are available to everyone, to anyone to win. You got a Patrick Mahomes signed mini helmet and 2 tickets to any Chiefs home game. You can get your tickets for the raffle by Venmoing at KC Sports Network or going to givebutter.com/KCSN Golf. You can get 5 tickets for $20, 15 tickets for $40, or 40 tickets for $100. Again, all the information there is available on the KCSN Foundation Twitter account. Let's take a timeout. Let's try to get our bearings. Let's see if we have a 53-man roster, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs. We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. And turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNOWG. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Okay, we are short of 53 by a pretty significant margin. But good. Seth's going to lose internet in a little bit. Fantastic. That's really good. That's very, you know what, Seth? I bet you'll be back before the roster's out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chiefs have 7 receivers on their 53-man roster.
Yes, I see this now too. Okay, so it's this right now. We have a 51-man roster, not including the traded players. Is that what you're seeing also, Nate?
Yes. Charles Minihue, physically unable to perform list. BJ Thompson, non-football injury list. Juju Smith-Schuster on the 53-man roster. Ask your questions now, ladies and gentlemen. We have seen behind the fourth wall. CJ Hansen is on the roster.
It would be a lot more helpful for them to just release everyone that is not on the roster. But yes, that I am.
They got to get Ethan Driscoll a new picture, but he's on the roster.
He is that was the scoop there at the just at the buzzer. That Lucas Niang did not make the cut. Kind of interesting.
He is not here.
He is not on this roster right now. Linebackers, you got Jack Cochran and Cam Jones on there behind Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, and Leo Chanel. I don't see a 6th linebacker at this point. So I think they're keeping 5, but probably 10 linemen with Hansen making it, Nate. Is that your read there?
Yes, correct.
Malik Herring is on the roster. It makes sense with Aminihu on PUP, but Herring makes the roster in addition to the trade.
Yeah, no Truman Jones, unfortunately. And I think this also informs you based on Kelvin Joseph's not being on the roster, based on Roland.
Nick Jones. Nick Jones might have been the other bubble corner there, right?
He was not a bubble in my mind based on what we saw in the preseason. Chris Roland Wallace, he is the last cornerback to make the roster. So this informs me.
Oh, he's listed as a corner.
Yes, he is listed as a corner. I will double check with Chamari Connor here in a second.
He's listed as a DB.
So, they've been flipping him between safety, cornerback. I guess now he's a DB again. But he's your nickel corner.
Can I count off the corners real quick just to put all because since this was a room that had a little bit of question.
Yes.
This is all by their jersey number. Joshua Williams, Trent McDuffie, only one single digit. Chris Roland Wallace, Nick Jones, Jalen Watson. 5 corners plus Shamari Connor. Is that right?
Yes.
So no Kamal Haddon, which isn't terribly surprising, but that's a rookie draft pick getting cut before the first roster. Is it only 5 corner? I was just sort of thinking we would probably end up. It's 5 corners And only 4 safeties, because Deion Bush is not on this list either, right?
Right. So the belief is that you might swap Nick Jones for Deion Bush on the active day roster. Again, if Deion Bush can come back on practice squad, he's not tied to the waiver wire based on his years of recruit service in the NFL. Now, I wouldn't have put Nick Jones on the 53-man roster, again, based on what we saw in the preseason, but I understand why they did that, because he is their backup nickel as of right now, considering that Chamari Connor is the starter at nickel if you're going to keep Trip McDuffie as sort of your ace in the secondary, which means he could be outside corner. He can obviously switch to nickel if necessary. But based on the cornerbacks we have here, with the belief that Jaden Hicks is a safety, based on the versatility that Chamari Connor presents, their number 2 cornerback is Joshua Williams, based on what we saw in the preseason and the struggles that Jalen Watson had in the preseason finale against the Chicago Bears. So as of right now, I would rank it Trent McDuffie, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, and then you get a little murkiness because of the Chamari Connor, Nick Jones sort of duality in their roles. And then you have Roland as like a special teams contributor if he's active on game day.
And also, we just have to kind of acknowledge, and apparently now Hendershot is on that list as well. We can put a little bit of the sausage out here since Seth's back. We are getting some sort of behind the scenes, but front facing info right now. The Chiefs have not yet tweeted this out for themselves yet. They have not tweeted out a list of cuts.
Now, to be fair, Nazy Johnson might not be available for the opener because he's missed practice for a couple weeks now. He missed today. Was that
the one that we skipped? Because it felt like we were missing a number.
Yes, we skipped Nazy Johnson, who right here is listed as a safety, although with my own eyes, I can tell you he's been playing cornerback. So again, some of the numbers get a little bit mixed up, but I think you could see, in all honesty, you could see Chris Roland Wallace, Carson Steele, and Ethan Driscoll all dressed on opening night against the Baltimore Ravens. That would be 3 undrafted rookies, all in uniform, based on the availability of the other players at the position and the fact that you probably want 2 tackles in the event that in the rare event that you have injuries to both of your starters, being Kingsley Suamataia and Jawan Taylor. You would like to have Wanya Morris and Ethan Driscoll available if necessary.
Again, just to put a bow on, I felt like my number was off by 1. You just pointed out on this list, Nazy Johnson is listed as a safety. I don't believe I read him as I was reading the corners who made the cut. So Nazy Johnson is also on this list. Funnily enough, though, I do think that the Lucas Niang, Ethan Driscoll part might be the most, one of the interesting bits here now, because Niang was drafted ahead of the 2020 season. He was injured at the end of his college career. He opted out of the COVID year, which also provided a little extra rebound time injury-wise. And then he got like 1 or 2 snaps in replacing Orlando Brown, right? But then didn't Joe Toney have to kick out to tackle? And he suffered another knee injury there, and he never quite looked the same. He certainly never looked as good as he did pre-hip injury in college. Do either of you have anything on why Ethan Driscoll ended up making this team with Niang being the guy that he kind of clearly took that spot from?
You got an idea, Seth? Because I have one, but I want to hear from yours first.
I think part of it really, Josh focusing on Niang there, part of it really was the veteran that was supposed to be in front of him just didn't perform. His preseason snaps, Niang's, were rough. And, he's been around multiple years now. It's always interesting trying to figure out when do you stop projecting based on potential and based on tools, because Niang's combination of athleticism and size should lead to something, but he could never.
Can I answer your hypothetical and to say that the time to give up on athleticism and size might be when you've got 6'8", 313 on a rookie deal right behind him?
And that's kind of where it comes out, is you've got a guy that you've been trying to develop for multiple years, and he's, if anything, taking steps backward. And then you've got a guy, we could see if we can develop this guy. And that's really where, the NFL is a merciless business in that. And the higher the raw talent you can show, the more chances you'll get to develop. Kadarius Toney is a wonderful example of that. He's the same dude now as he was when he was drafted. because it's all a projection, right? Like, what can this guy do versus what can't he do? Can we coach him up to do those hypothetical things? Well, eventually the hypothetical stops being real. Like, it stops feeling like a possibility. It's that whole, this idea of, well, I think he could do this. Well, if you get 3 years into he could do this, then the answer is, well, he's not. So, and that's what I think happens there. But good on Driscoll. I mean, that's for them to have 2 undrafted rookie free agents make the roster. 3. Oh yeah. Again, the corner. I feel terrible about that. I will start learning his name. And so that's really promising for a team. Chris Roland Wallace, cornerback, Chris Roland Wallace, who, by the way, looked solid in the slot, which, given Trent McDuffie's like, I know they've got this Chamari Connor experiment that they may or may not be running, but Trent McDuffie's the only dude I trust in the slot. And so it's great for them to keep a guy that did good things, at least in preseason.
Hey, Chris Roland Wallace, 5'11", 202. He's got the frame to be a nickel, guys.
He's got the frame. So I just think it's really interesting. A team that's back-to-back Super Bowls has, a veteran core, certainly, but they continue to churn through and find ways to stay young. That's something that's interesting. I was reading about in terms of every team ever. I was on the Go Long platform. A fellow Substacker, Tyler Dunn.
Yes.
He does great work. He had a guest columnist essentially writing about the teams that have tried a three-peat, why it didn't work out. Really great series. I'd highly recommend it. And one thing the Chiefs team has going for it, they are way younger than other teams that have attempted a three-peat. Way younger. And they're one of the younger teams in the league still, and that's despite Kelsey being ancient by tight end standards, Chris Jones being old by defensive tackle standards, and Patrick Mahomes being middle-aged by quarterback standards.
How many years does he have left?
I think he's got like 15 years left. It's something that freaks me out a little bit.
People are wondering, how many years does he have left?
Oh, you know what? The Chiefs are probably bracing for the possibility that he could. Yeah, no, I can't do this again.
Now, this is a great question from one of our guests here, one of our former Voyeurs watchers. Thank you. This is Greg Slayton. Which side of the Mason-Dixie line is Roland Wallace from? Guys.
I know, but I'm going to double check. Chris
Roland Wallace. Let me look at the college tape one more time. Let me look at guys are on to us. Where is he from, Josh? Because it ain't
at USC.
Right.
But Carson Steele played at UCLA, and I'm gonna keep doing some research.
He's from Palmade, California, and started his college career at UCLA, or excuse me, at Arizona. They're on to us. They're on to us, guys.
I mean, yeah, it's still hot and it's still in the southern half, but it doesn't.
It's not.
That's not the spirit of the rule,
Right? Yeah. Kamal Hatton, who is part of the Mason-Dixie line, didn't come close to making the roster. So that's what you also learn too, is that like even Nazy Johnson going through multiple injuries, only playing one game in the preseason, if my memory is correct, coming back from an ACL tear, still made the roster over Kamal Hatton, rookie, relatively healthy. He was just bad as a 7th round pick.
Here's an interesting, another little quick take here from Hint Swanson, noting that 4 rookie offensive linemen make the initial 53. Obviously, you've got Kingsley starting, and then Norzad, Driscoll, and Hansen.
Hey, gotta turn over. You gotta turn over that roster. But to add on to Seth's point earlier about the tackle situation, this is something that a good friend of mine, Nick Jacobs, and I have talked about, and I think he even mentioned on his podcast with Matt Derrick, 41 is the mic. The Chiefs want to get back to having athletic tackles. And Ethan Driscoll on that 41-yard run from Deneric Prince showed his athleticism. So even on a play where the running back is the one who mostly gets the praise, the cheers on, I guess what you could call a delayed sort of handoff in a shotgun look against the Detroit Lions. The Chiefs, I guess, were more impressed with Ethan Driscoll's performance on that play than the 41 yards produced by Deneric Prince, because Deneric Prince is going to hopefully come back on the practice squad. But that tells you that, like, could Lucas Niang do that? And if the answer is no, then with Kingsley, with Wanye obviously having another year, into the system, and them finding a giant of a man in Ethan Driscoll who's got some pretty nice feet, they want athleticism at the tackle position so they can be more varied in their run game with hopefully not giving up too much from a pass protection standpoint. So that's another reason why Ethan Driscoll, who, again, ladies and gentlemen, do not look up this man's Chiefs official photo. They don't do him any justice. Ethan Driscoll looks a lot better than that. But he's on the roster for a reason, because he's 6'8", 313 pounds, and can move.
He should move to a different headshot though too, because
it
looks like he was about to sneeze or something.
They did him dirty. It's
not
fair.
A second one for Ethan, man. Sort of interesting. The Chiefs end up with one extra offensive player here. They end up keeping 26 on offense and 24 on defense, with 10 linemen and 7 receivers and 4 tight ends. 3 running backs, obviously, including Steele in that group. Not a lot of like stunners, which makes sense considering that we chipped away at a whole lot of the big names earlier, and then there wasn't a lot left to be shocked about. Bolton, Tranquil, Chanel, Cochran, Jones, that was the 5. So Cole Christensen and Curtis Jacobs and Swayze Bozeman all feel like practice squad candidates.
Yeah.
And there's 17 spots there. Chu Godric, not on the active roster. He gets the practice squad exemption, which Louis Rees-Zammit does not get. So he does actually have to go through waivers and could be claimed and all that. But I would be pretty surprised if I would say that of the guys, let me ask you guys this. Of the players who the Chiefs cut today, who you think they would want to bring back on the practice squad, are any of them a particular risk to get claimed off waivers in your eyes?
Maybe Justin Ross, because of the size and the pedigree and the former makeup of what he could give you at that height and that skill level. Now, again, the other 31 teams have the same film and footage as Josh Brisco. So if they want to do that, by all means, do that. But I think he's probably the biggest name. You could maybe take some sniffs, maybe kick some tires with Lucas Niang, because he does give you some veteran presence. He still has skills. It's just, his athleticism, ever since he had the injury, which is unfortunate. When he had the hip injury, he just hasn't been the same. Then he has the knee injury. So, like, teams need more linemen than I think the common fan realizes. And so he could also be someone that's up for debate as well, which is why I had the initial reaction of, oh my goodness, Lucas Niang didn't make the roster, which means he could be on like the Pittsburgh Steelers. He could be on the New York Giants. Have you seen those offensive lines? They're horrid. Okay.
Patriots.
So, yeah, Patriots. I don't know if Lucas Niang is going to come back, because I think as I'm thinking this through in real time, I do think that there's a place for him as a backup somewhere else. But this is also a credit to the Chiefs scouting department, because they found 4 rookie offensive linemen that they feel like they can groom and develop, over the course of their rookie contracts. And, this is a little bit of math, but it's cheaper to keep Ethan Driscoll than it is right now to keep Lucas Niang moving forward.
And guys getting claimed, the team would inherit that money. So, like, if somebody wanted to claim Kadarius Toney, the Chiefs would be thrilled, because it's $2 million or whatever dollars. They don't have to carry on their salary cap.
Right.
Anybody that we covered, we haven't covered that you want to mention, Seth, that I've got a couple other things rolling in as we go, but from that same question, anybody you're like nervous about getting back on the practice squad?
Not really. I mean, one thing that, Niang and Ross have going for them is draft pedigree is a weird way of framing it for Ross because of his journey into the league, but college pedigree, this is the time of the year where college pedigree means so much. Like,
right.
if you didn't have a high college pedigree and you get cut, a lot harder. If you're a name, like, it's like, like Andy Isabella still has been cut by 16 different teams or whatever it is. And every time I'm like, oh, hey, I recognize his name. And look, that matters. It does to teams as well. I think Niang will get picked up just because he's got experience and the quality of line play in the NFL is garbage. Not everywhere, but many places. And
Right.
so that should give him a shot. But really none that I'm just like, I mean, they really, the Chiefs really generally, and it's probably because we follow them as closely as we do, but they generally go pretty chalk with this stuff. Like they really have the last several years. It feels like by the time we get midway through training camp, it's like there's maybe 2 or 3 positions up for grab, which to be fair, good on some undrafted rookie free agents for grabbing extra positions this year. That's an upset. So good on them. It's nice to see.
Right. I think this is the most undrafted rookies who have made the initial 53-man roster since I've covered the team with 3.
A couple, I agree also. Ross, it would be really easy for a team to talk themselves into using Justin Ross differently too. If you are the Panthers or whatever, like, yeah, we'll take a big jump ball guy. We'll see if it makes sense.
Play that Clemson.
It would make some sense to me. He was hugging Trevor Lawrence after the preseason game. Maybe
find me, come get me.
Seriously, is like, please send me to Jacksonville, and I could see it working, and it still does not move me 1% away from being glad that the Chiefs brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. Defensive tackles: Chris Jones, Tershawn Wharton, Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell. So that's again probably the expected top 4 of that group. But since we had been talking about it, Matt Dickerson earlier, all of that. And then there are a few sort of similar things in the chat I'm seeing from several people, including my mom. Louis Rees-Zammit got waived earlier. He'll have to go through waivers, and then they could bring him back to the practice squad. They just can't set the practice squad until these guys go through waivers.
Hey, Louis. We love you. We are going to support you. This wasn't a hit and quit, baby. We're doing this for the long term, right? So what I need you to do is hand me your cell phone, and I want you to stay in your house, your residence, for the next 36 hours. Don't go outside. Don't look out the window. And then come back here.
Because there's Nate.
Exactly. Because there's Nate. He's going to hug you. He's going to get you right back into that locker room. And we're going to spend an entire year transforming your body, getting you in those meeting rooms so that you can be our kickoff returner next year. Okay. That's hope, Lord willing, this NFL rule works out and they don't kick the ball through the end zone. But hand me your phone. I need you to, Louis, I know you're a gorgeous human being, and I know there are plenty of people who want to support you in this time of need. I need you to hand over your cell phone to me, and I don't need you to be outside of your residence for the next 36 hours. And I'm gonna tell your agent the same thing. Look, they know this was always going to be the plan, okay? And you've earned the right to be on the practice squad. But we have to do this. Because as Seth said, there aren't that many good offensive linemen, and we just got to keep Godric. I mean, we just got to, because he's really big, and he can block. And, he's already in the system. We just got to get you in, right? It's like, hey, the more you bring in, the more you get out of it. So hand me your phone. And just know that hey, you'll be back home in no time. You only do 2 days. The day you go in and the day you come out. And you'll get to come out in 36 hours.
The other thing that's kind of come through the comments a lot is some questions about how the practice squad process works, or what agency that players have in some of these decisions. So if you're a player with less than 4 seasons accrued, right? 4 seasons, then you are subject to waivers.
Yeah, which usually means you have to play about 5 to. You have to be on the active roster for 5 to 6 games every season consecutively, or even non-consecutively. But yeah, so even for Kadarius Toney, he has to clear through waivers because he's entered his 4th season, so he doesn't even have the chance to accrue, until obviously through this year.
So if you hear like about a vested veteran and that kind of thing, so that's also the difference between being waived and put on waivers versus being released from your contract. Deion Bush is getting released from his contract and then will sign with the Chiefs practice squad because he's 30 or 31, I think, and he'll be there for you. He doesn't have to look around. as I mentioned earlier, I'd be floored if Kadarius Toney was like, yeah, no, I'll take your practice squad paycheck and just hang around back there. I'm guessing he's going to try to find the closest thing to playing time that he can find, which at this point he probably should.
Hey, Kadarius, it's the Buffalo Bills. You got anything? You can? What if we fly you up here and you just?
Listen,
you just share a few things.
He made one of like the 5 biggest plays of any Bills receiver last year. So I feel like that makes sense.
Hey, Kadarius, did you download anything before they let you out the building?
Better question: did you retain anything before they let you out of the building?
Come on!
Whoa! What?
I do remember my thought.
I quit
now.
on Kadarius Toney last. I waited for the last lifeboat. I get to make that joke.
For you to have the lack of, not you, this is the Toney thing, to have the lack of self-awareness to tweet out the whole, and here we go, as though it's some kind of like, here we go thing. It's like, buddy, like, this is a bad thing. This was bad.
Well, you see, Josh. Hey, Seth.
Look at Neil Farrell and see what he tweeted, and maybe talk about God having a plan. Not acting like, oh, thank God, I'm finally free from this organization that doesn't know how to use me.
I'm sorry,
Andy
Seth.
Reid and the Chiefs.
I'm sorry, Seth. They actually gave Kadarius Toney his phone back today, so that's where we are. He gave his phone back to him.
That sounds about right.
On the ability to leave. So, at least, well, I think that if I could interpret Kadarius Toney for you, if I could translate his social media usage, that informs me that he will be joining a team soon. And this is his way of coping with that. So I don't know what that team is. I don't know if it's the Seattle Seahawks or the San Francisco 49ers or the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know. What I can tell you is the Buffalo Bills are definitely on the phone with this man. Did you download anything?
All I know, Nate, is that the only person who's more dislikable in Kansas City right now than Kadarius Toney is Adam Taylor in our comments right now.
I love it when this show becomes about one upset. I love when there are 400 comments and one's like, I don't enjoy this podcast. And Seth's like, that's the one
chummy energy down. Adam, it's way worse when we're not podcasting. This is us taking the chummy energy down like 300%. You wouldn't be able to stand us in real life. And you know what, Adam? We wouldn't be able to stand you either. And that's okay. Poor Josh right now. I'm sorry, man.
If not being able to stand somebody in real life was a reason to not be involved in a podcast with them, Seth and I would have very divergent careers.
Oh, now see, that's just not true, and that's mean.
Adam
hates the troops. Nate's dog comments. Adam hates the troops. Man, yeah, you hate to see it.
Hey, can we talk about the mail? Can we talk about the mail? Now, look, they told me that Dave Toub
the mail
was gonna carry this roster. Okay, where's Dave Toub's imprint? How is the assistant head coach not making any moves? All right, he couldn't save.
They traded a conditional 2047 8th-round pick for Dave Toub. They got Hindy Schlitz over here.
You think he was watching special teams tape and say, "Hey, get Brett immediately.
Bring me Hinderwins."
Hinderwins.
Yeah.
He couldn't save Nico Remigio. I mean, come on.
I can't save Nico.
He couldn't save Cole Christensen. What are we doing?
I do feel like you could see more of Toub's imprint on the roster like 4 years ago. And I can't help but feel like Brett Veach has ultimately finally been like, Andy, look, they're all professional NFL players. They can all, except Justin Ross, play on special teams. There's literally only one human in the entirety of the 1,500 guys who play in the NFL.
Hey, Dave Toub, where's Cole Christensen? Where is he?
I do.
I had Christensen making it on Spags' endorsement because I heard how he talked about Cam Jones or Curtis Jacobs, and I was like, oh, Curtis Jacobs is not getting trusted. By having Cam Jones and Curtis Jacobs with the same initials has made I no longer know which one is which. There is one four-armed, four-legged linebacker named Cam Curtis Jones Jacobs, and he's one guy. One of them made the team.
My
one of them
God,
didn't.
that's nightmare fuel.
That guy would be great. That guy would be worth paying $13 million a year.
That guy would be an incredible linebacker. Do we have time, Josh, to talk about the edge room? Because that's been controversial.
Am I the only one that can see the clock?
No, keep going, baby. Keep going. Shoot your shot, Seth.
No, but Adam might like us even less if we don't talk more football.
You're welcome to do whatever, but don't be like, don't be like, hey, what time is it, and how long has the show been going, and how long do we usually do the show for? Because that is just as accessible to you.
Hey, can I get people excited? Per Dave Tobe,
we haven't decided my thing yet.
Sky Moore is your kickoff returner, and McCole Hardman is probably your punt returner.
Did you say
2024 Chiefs football?
Nate doesn't ask if we can continue doing the show or if there's anything else we want to cover. Nate's just like, Nate is see ball, get ball. And you felt like you were being polite when in reality, the only thing I could say was yes. And, you can see the clock. So it's whatever you want to do, man. It's just vibes. Look, the Chiefs still, the Kansas City Chiefs have not acknowledged their roster cuts that they had to submit 2 hours and 45 minutes ago.
Perfect.
Had to is doing a lot of work, Like it's nice to enter.
By the way, the trade for my understanding is the trade for what's his name? The guy from Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas's trade has not been finalized. Therefore, I don't know who the 53 is because
it would just be be rude to Lucas Niang to wait and cut him tomorrow. Just cut to 52 and tweet it out. God.
I am intrigued by the edge room, mostly because I'm terrified by the edge room until November. Because we didn't even get to that, right? Like we might want to save that for Thursday. The reality is right now the Chiefs have until November.
Josh, they have a trade pending involving a conditional 7th round 2027 pick. Like, Josh, relax, man. This is important bookkeeping.
That is important stuff. The Chiefs right now have 2 edge players that are proven to be average or above players until November. 2. Exactly 2.
Chris Jones could go on the edge when necessary.
Well, then there are 0 defensive tackles who meet that philosophy.
Yeah, Tershawn Wharton's okay on obvious passing downs. We're
gonna move Mike. We're gonna move Mike Dana inside. That way we have Mike Dana, Tershawn Wharton, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis. How do you not see this, Seth?
Well, because I saw it for the first 6 weeks of last year, and they
brought everybody back.
Like, I need to stop looking at the comments. I'm gonna call them edges until the day I die, Glenn. And you can't make. I go way back with Glenn. This is fun.
That's fine. Seth is edging with the chat, and we're gonna talk about the pass rushers. Spit it out. We're at 1 hour and 2 minutes.
Here's the deal. George Karlaftis, we'll see if he's taken another step forward this year. He's not a guy that wins one-on-one consistently enough to be a dude. He's still a guy. He can execute Spag's system. He's a high-level guy. Good motor, good effort, decent power, good athleticism. Doesn't have any bend around the edge. Doesn't win one-on-one consistently.
Can I tell you that
Mike Dana doesn't win one-on-one consistently.
Shut up, Nate. Let Seth get this off his chest.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the internal Slack.
I'm sorry.
The internal Slack for the Athletic, and I see, hey,
rub it in our faces. Why don't you?
This is Joe's takeaways analysis from the Bills 53-man roster. Here's Vic Tafer and Deshaun Reed on the Raiders 53-man roster. Ben Standing, shout out to Ben. Hey, he's got the Commanders 53-man roster. Zach Rosenblatt. Do you want to know who's on the Jets 53-man roster? You can go check it out right now on theathletic.com. Josh Kendall has the Atlanta Falcons 53-man roster. You will not find the Chiefs 53-man roster on theathletic.com. You won't find it. It's not there.
I mean, that would mean that you'd think like a content provider might want to talk about the edges or something, but All right.
This entire day has felt. I know this is true for me and Nate and Seth. Your day job is way harder than our day job, so this isn't a competition. But this entire day has felt like a prank. I cannot stress enough how it's like, oh, nothing's happening. Pressers are gonna start late. Ooh, here's Nick Bolton speed talking about nothing. 20 minutes from now, Juju Smith-Schuster will show up at the podium. It's gonna be the most low energy he's ever been. Several hours later, we will leak out the release of Justin Ross, Louis Rees-Zammit, and Kadarius Toney. Then it's gonna be absolute radio silence again for another 2 hours. Then the deadline will arrive and nothing will happen. This entire day has felt like a psychological experiment that me and Nate and a whole bunch of the rest of us are just like, we are the rats being experimented on.
I don't know who's managing right now. I don't know if it's Pete. Shout out to Pete Sweeney. I don't know who's managing the Arrowhead Pride Twitter account, but it's comical. Because it's I mean, to be fair, I mean the Chiefs have been doing this for ages. There's a tweet from September 5th, 2015. Chiefs, I can't go drink beer with my pals unless you announce these cuts, man. Yeah. We're almost a decade later. We're still here, guys.
A lot has changed. This has stayed the same. Seth, oh my God, I want to know what you think about the edges. Seth, I'm just gonna burst if I don't get to hear you talk about the edge group. Are you nervous? I'm nervous. We should have mentioned earlier on the one good bit of news. Seth's good bit of news today is that Charles Omenihu is starting on the PUP list. So Seth has been having a good day.
Seth is correct, and all the
haters win.
The haters won.
I mean, arguably the terrorists have won, depending on it. But at least the haters.
So and look, let's be fair. Who's the first quarterback that they're playing against in the regular season? I mean, it's not like that guy's elusive or anything.
I don't know. Have the Ravens submitted their 53-man roster? Because right now, I don't know that Mahomes is on the Chiefs.
I think it's available on Ravens.com.
That makes sense. Seth, play through contact. Let's go.
I wonder if Ryan's still hiring. No, I'm nervous. We'll talk more about why later. We're an hour and 6 minutes. I'm nervous.
See the clock.
Hey, Adam Zook, who says the pod needs to continue until we get the 53-man roster, like a telethon, sir.
Yes.
Don't pick up the phone. I don't want your
I gotta
money,
go to the gym and walk slightly uphill.
Do this for Adam.
And tell dudes to stop looking at Jazz. Stop looking at her.
Adam Zook submitted a super chat earlier that benefits the KCSN Foundation. Again, go check out the raffle if you haven't. He says the show must go on, and then earlier Ralph said Chiefs releasing their final roster after GTA 6 is quite the play, and that's also very funny. Yes. Seth, for Adam, for the KCSN Foundation, for charity, for the children. What's concerning you about the edge room right now?
Oh, sorry, I was going for the MJ comment. The fact that they have two. Now we'll see.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah.
Talk, just go.
You can read about the Patriots 53-man roster on the athletic.com. You can the Bears.
Guys, they have a pair of guys.
The Panthers.
The
Panthers got their out early. The Browns have a 53-man roster. I'm just saying, guys.
Tucker, can you take me and Nate out of the room, and then Seth can just talk about the edge group? You can just minimize our cameras and mute our mics or whatever, and then Seth can just talk about the edge group uninterrupted for as long as he wants, and then he can give us the outro, and the show will be over. I consent to this way of the show ending. Nate, do I have your support?
Here's the thing that people have to remember is that pass rush is a complementary thing. You can't have an elite pass rush with just one guy, in this case, Chris Jones. You need other guys who win one-on-one more often. And you need a rotation. I feel so lied to. You know what?
I didn't know if my mic was on or not. I was sleepy.
It makes me nervous, guys. Go back and watch the first 6 games of the season last year, or first 5 before Menahu came back. Their pass rush was fine. It was fine. Chris Jones is elite. And I'm not talking about week 1 where Chris Jones isn't in there. Chris Jones is elite. He's going to make plays happen. 2 or 3 times a game, he's going to make a play happen that no one else could do. But 2 or 3 times per game is approximately, 5% of the snaps? You need to have guys that can win one-on-one. Hopefully Karlaftis takes that next step, but that's who Omenihu was, and that's why the pass rush didn't just get better commensurate with his ability. It's a rising tide that lifts all boats anytime you add another dude. Right now, they don't even have another guy, really, past the 3 that they've got. And if you're just going to have a superstar in guys, you need like 5 or 6 of them. So at least you can rotate them and have them be crazy fresh and attack the line of scrimmage like they're psychotic.
How would you describe Felix Anadike Uzama? What is he? Is he a guy?
He's not even a G right now.
Ooh, he's like a maggot. He hasn't turned into a fly yet.
Let's not call him a maggot.
I'm not going to say he's a maggot. Tucker. You can save us from this hellscape that is.
Look, all I asked was a question. You said he's not even a good, and I was like, "Well, goodness, I mean, is that
it's like that's a Friends reference? They don't even have a pla, let alone a plan." Right. And that's where Cam Thomas. Look, he played a bunch of snaps for the Cardinals last year. He's back to being a defensive end.
And
Glenn,
can you get it a 3-point stance, my man?
And then that's what he did in college. He's got some good functional strength. He's got some length. He also had 1 quarterback hit last year in many snaps. So we'll see. Who knows? But they've got no one there that's proven. I'm scared. That spooks me because really you've lost one of your high-level corners. Hopefully they replace him well. It just looks like a crack in the foundation a little bit. If you want the pass rush was really, 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 really good down the stretch last year. We might see a step back to it's fine because Chris Jones is good.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What? Yeah. Okay, guys, we can move ahead now and say that we have the presumptive Chiefs 53-man roster. Now we are still waiting for electoral votes out of Arizona, but we can call it now. The Kansas City Chiefs have 53-man on their roster, and it looks like it won't be contested. We're just waiting for Cam Thomas to pass a physical and land in Kansas City. Again, we're gonna look at the counties again. I'm gonna wait for the votes to fully come in, but it does look like we can presumptively say Carson Steele is a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's just we just cannot say it's on the website yet. We just cannot. We have to wait to get certification from the Electoral College, and no one's going to dispute it. No one's going to have a riot in sight.
But if Dave Tobe has the courage, Nico Remigio could still make this 53-man roster.
I think we actually covered every single position group in the midst of all this.
Thanks for all your help.